Okay, let's begin the meeting. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting, regular meeting, Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. Mr. Bodie, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to provide a few short updates. Number one is something that has come up recently. There are two properties on Sturgis Road that are contiguous to Perry's Mill Pond, where the Mill River Lab work is the classes are held right near the trails. And the property owner wants to sell it to the town. He believes at a discount. We did get it appraised. It's right around the appraisal value. And I think as a town, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a couple of reasons. One is when the buses pull up for the Mill River Lab, they pull up on Sturgis, and it's very dangerous for the kids to get out and go around. This is two properties, and one of them is empty and can be used for parking. Actually, right away could be used for parking. The other one has a house on it in good condition. Still needs to be thoroughly checked by James Ryan and his crew, but we currently store the Mill River Wetlands Committee stores their equipment off-site in Bridgeport. They would be able to store their equipment there and hold classrooms and do some of their lab work there. So we're very excited about it. This kind of thing will never come up again, and if it's sold in the private sector, there will probably be 3 very large houses right on Perry's Mill Pond. So there's a conservation aspect to this as well as an educational aspect, and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts would be able to use it. That's one thing. We had a meeting about the UI monopoles last night, a town hall meeting, had a lot of people show up. A lot of people got to voice their opinions and ask questions of particularly our lawyer, David Ball, and Steve Ozak, head of the Sasko Creek 501c3, and myself. And I think the general feeling was it was a good use of time. So we're very happy about that. We had last week a meeting with DOT. They came down, the Department of Transportation. It was the first meeting and probably the only public meeting that we have planned on the road diet. A lot of people showed up, but from Southport, from which river is it? I forget. Sort of around where
So like South Pine Creek.
South Pine Creek, all down to the Pequot Avenue and a little beyond. They're looking to turn 4 lanes into 3 to calm traffic with turning lanes to stop, sort of the start and stop kind of traffic, and calm. Sometimes now there are people that have to slam on your brakes if someone's turning left. And if you're coming out from the south side of the post road, you're turning left against 4 lanes of traffic. So we'll see. They've modeled it out. What they show is that the traffic, there should be significantly fewer accidents. There are many, actually surprisingly many accidents along that stretch. And it should not impact the traffic flow that much, but it will reduce speeding, but it should be smoother traffic.
And that was recorded, so
that was recorded.
So
if
people want to watch it, they can go back.
That is definitely worth watching, because there were some concerns about people who live on like Overhill, that there might be diversion of traffic off the post road. DOT does not believe that proves out in their modeling, and their modeling is pretty sophisticated, so hopefully they're right. The revaluation for our reappraised of our properties We have started the process of interviewing appraisal companies. So far, we had 3 companies return bids. Won't get into that quite yet because we have not selected one yet, but 3 strong companies. And once we approve the company, they will start pretty quickly sending out cards for survey cards for homeowners to fill in. Something very important, solid waste and recycling yesterday approved an increase in the fees that we charge the haulers. These fees, this was all discussed during the budgeting process, and it came to fruition yesterday. The tipping fees, the fees that the trash, collection company in Bridgeport charges the haulers went up by 21%. And in order for, charges us, in order for us to offset that, we are raising the fees to our haulers. We estimate that the increase to the average family is going to be about $2 a month. However, we recognize that not every hauler will, they may try to take advantage of people and increase the fees to our residents by more than that. So we would ask people, this won't go into effect until July 1st. We're going to ask our residents to make sure they're on the lookout for fee increases because it should not be more than around $2 a month per family. And then we'll be getting more details. Actually, we're thinking about putting out a detailed deeper dive on how the fees work and who pays who for what and why we had to raise the rates. Let's see, CFO search. We have been looking for a permanent CFO for the last couple of months. We put out an offer. Unfortunately, our top choice declined. And our second choice declined as well. So we're going to use a search firm to go out and do a broader search, countrywide search. And that's just where we are, unfortunately. Yes?
Will it also be posted on the town website in
It
addition?
will also be posted. It was posted. We did get a number of applicants. We got a lot of really, really good applicants, but many of them didn't have municipal CFO or even any municipal experience. Some of them came from investment banks and very smart, but this is a job that needs someone to jump in immediately and actually know the systems that we use. Charter revision. There's been a lot of discussion about charter revision. I've gotten some feedback from the public. I am committed to, and this is a long process, I am committed to forming a charter revision commission in the fall. And I would like people to consider applying for charter revision. It is a long process. It's a year-long process, a lot of meetings. We definitely would like some attorneys to apply and people that are interested in municipal government, hopefully have looked at charters before and understand and are interested in the way governments operate. Lastly, Rooster River ARPA funds. We had $2.8 million on the ARPA list for Rooster River. We had this discussion not that long ago about wanting to keep, I wanted to reclassify that out of Rooster River into other categories, including paving, things that we knew we could actually spend before the deadline at the end of the year. Unfortunately, even our DPW and engineering groups now believe it's just cutting it too close to keep that money in ARPA. We have to encumber it by the end of December, and if we don't, we will lose it, which is, I think this discussion will be familiar to many people. So we are at a point now where it's really getting too close to call, because too close for comfort. If we got back an answer from the Army Corps of Engineers that we could move ahead with that project, today it would be cutting it close, but we haven't heard back from them. We've had a comment period. The comment period has come and gone. We're waiting to hear the comments back, second round of comments back, but there's likely to be more work that we have to do before we can even go out to bid. We've got to put together a bid package, hear back, sort through the bids, hire a firm. We then have to encumber the funds, and a lot of things could happen in that process that would cause us to lose that money. So what we are going to do is ask to reclassify those funds and then go to the Board of Finance and ask to bond Rooster River in advance of hearing back at a similar or slightly greater amount than we currently have scheduled in the ARPA funds. And that's actually, it wasn't as brief as I'd hoped. That was kind of extensive, but those are some of the major things that we are working on right now. And so the next item is the minutes. Item number.
Ask, would we have a presentation of the engineering department, just not a voting item, but a presentation, just to hear where they are before the Board of Finance takes up the bonding? Is that how that would work? Would we at least get information about?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Status?
We can, when we talk about the ARPA, because I think we're going to have to do this pretty soon. So I think next meeting we should have outlined, or we should bring in what we want to transfer and vote on that. And as part of that, we should have either Bucky Marsilio or Bill Hurley give a presentation on why. I mean, at this point, I think they're getting nervous, so they'll be happy to do that, I would think.
Because at the last meeting, both Mr. Marsilio and Mr. Hurley said that we wouldn't really have to make this decision until June, because it's not, we're talking 7 months until December. And they both said, if I remember correctly, they would know everything they need to know by June.
I think Mr. Hurley was a little more optimistic. He's less optimistic now. So part of it is what they've heard back, because they have actually had interaction with the Army Corps of Engineers. And then Mr. Marsilio is not that optimistic. So you may have misinterpreted him. I think he wanted us to reclassify it last time.
Could they send us maybe some information just for us to look at before we put it on as a voting item, just so we could understand it better, where, like the comments?
Sure.
Because my understanding from Hurley, and obviously I was intimately involved with this project beforehand, and he felt that they had asked so many questions and there was so much back and forth. They didn't feel it was going to be that many comments coming from deep, and that we should be able to answer them just based on the amount of work we've already done in getting all the information to them. So I'd just be curious to get some more information about it.
Yeah.
So when this comes back, do you foresee the bonding resolution, approval of the bonding resolution and the reallocation of the ARPA funds being at the same meeting? Just in terms of timeline and getting these two things.
I think we're going to try.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to try to do them both, because I know that was a concern of Selectwoman Kupchak, and not feeling comfortable making that reallocation without moving ahead at the same time on the bonding. But it is an essential project.
Saying the Board of Finance, well, first of all, when we're talking about a big issue like this, I think it should be listed so that the public would know about it. There's obviously a lot of people who are interested in this project. So I think that's important. If we're going to have a Selectman update, there should be some maybe, sense of what's going to be on it. And are we suggesting that the Board of Finance would vote to bond the money prior to us voting?
No, I don't think that's possible. So
No, I mean, so we would vote to bond the money.
we would,
Send it to the Board of Finance?
yeah.
Okay, all right. The full amount.
Yeah, because we are coming up on, our bonding schedule where we have to nail that down very soon for the July bonding. end of June, July bonding.
Are we going to have a presentation on the bonding?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes.
And just one more question about, a comment about the UI presentation. I want to thank everyone who came out last night and who presented. And can you just speak a little bit just in terms of the community reaching out to state legislatures before they vote on some of the legislation that's up?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a good point.
Next week.
So we are asking people if they are against the monopoles, which of course last night most of the people who came to the meeting, if not everyone, is against the current plan. But anyone else who is should email the state delegation, and we have a QR code that we have on the can we put it up on the website? It's up on the website, and all you have to do is go to that QR code, and you will email all of our whole state delegation: Sarah Kidd, Kristen McCarthy-Vahey, Jen Lieber, and Tony Huang. Obviously, they're already on board pretty much with the legislation that we're trying to get passed, which would it's in discussions in discussions at the General Assembly meeting now as we speak. The original bill is HB 5507. It puts limitations on what the siting council, the body that oversees siting this infrastructure, it puts some limitations on them and makes them have certain requirements for notification that they have they've not been great at notifying people. They've not been great at listening to public opinion. They haven't been very transparent or required transparency around calculations of cost and things like that. And definitely something worth looking into and emailing them. But also if you have friends and interested parties in other towns, ask them to use the same QR code. They pull up their town under that QR code. It takes you to a website where you can pull up any town and will send. You can send an email to all of your delegates, your delegation from any town in Connecticut, and it would be helpful to have other towns involved in this as well. Good? Yeah.
And just, I want to thank you for the update. Just for the public, I had asked the first selectman to provide this update to the board. I know that sometimes, the updates, things might be happening the morning of that you want to report out, but if at all possible, I agree with Ms. Kupchak, if there's something that you know for sure next, the week before the agenda is posted, that you're going to update, just including it on the agenda might just be helpful for the public, similar to, coming from the board of ed superintendent's report. If we know ahead of time, always good to give as much information beforehand. So I think that's a good suggestion, and
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you.
and some of these, I was just trying to give an early, some of them are not fully fleshed out, but now people have heard about them, so when we do bring them up next time, they'll be familiar.
I think it does kind of put it on people's radar to know to check Board of Selectmen agendas. They know now that ARPA and the Rooster River bonding is something that's going to be coming before us, before the summer.
Yep. All right, item number 4, minutes. To consider and act upon the minutes of February 26, 2024, February 27, 2024, February 28, 2024, March 4th, March 13th, and March 27th. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comments?
I have there was just a typo on the February 8th minutes, the 28th minutes, excuse me. On the second page, under 7080 Parks, it says decrease in regular payroll from people mobbing up and filling positions with lower salaries. I think it should be moving up.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
And that's it. So I don't know if we need an amendment for that or just. kind of a
Do
typo.
we need amendment for that, or can we just change the typo?
Well, you can just vote on approving it with the amendment.
Okay, so then we need to make an amendment.
I make an amendment to correct the typo. to
Second.
read From mobbing to moving.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other comments on any of the other minutes? Yeah. Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Resignation, Adrian Cantor, Democrat, 11 Myron Street, resigned April 25th, 2024. This is information only. Item number 6, to hear, consider, and act upon the following appointments. A, Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, Adrian Z. Cantor, Democrat, 11 Myron Street, term 11/20 to 11/24, to replace David E. Dombowski, R., who resigned. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Adrian, do you want to say a few words? Yeah, you're on mute.
I'm off mute. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited. I'm a big fan of pedestrian and bike opportunities, and I've really enjoyed our time in Fairfield over the last 18 years, where sidewalks have been prioritized, and I hope that they are only more so with bike lanes as well in the coming years.
Well, you have a perfect resume for this job, and being transportation planner and all that. So can't wait to hear about your contributions to this committee, and there's some really great people in that committee.
Very excited.
Any other comment? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations, Adrian. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
6B, Board of Library Trustees. These are nominations from the Board of Library Trustees. Stephanie E. Borsari, Democrat, 91 Euclid Avenue, term 7/1/19 to 7/30/25, to replace Jill W. Brown, Democrat, who resigned. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Oh, hey. We've never met before.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Stephanie, normally people go up to the podium, even though we do have these things, but do you mind going up to the podium and telling us about yourself and why you want to do this?
I should have done this by Zoom, huh? Actually, one of the reasons I'm really glad to be here in person is because I feel very strongly that our library system is a place that has served Fairfield, and the library systems throughout the country anyway have served people both in times of need where we had to do things digitally and virtually as well as in person. I think it is one of the single most democratic systems in the country, where it doesn't matter what your level of affluence is or your level of need is, you are welcome. And as a 20-year resident of Fairfield, Connecticut, and the mother of 2 kids who have gone through the public school system, and as a philanthropy consultant who has also sat on the other side of the table as a fundraiser, serving an institution and an organization that just meets my own values is a real honor. So I'm really grateful to be put forward to the board for your consideration. Thank you.
Again, your resume is just wonderful to read, and it's always so it's so nice to see people like you stepping up to serve the town. Yeah.
Agreed, and I love your passion and your commitment. It's just so obvious, and we are very lucky to have you serving, and thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Actually, any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Item.
Glad you came in person.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you for
Nice to
coming.
meet you all.
Item 7, Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the Purchasing Authority to enter into the proposed purchase agreement with Gengris Ford of Plainville, Connecticut to provide the Fairfield Fire Department with the 2025 Ford Explorer per the Gengris Ford proposal dated April 15th, 2024, for a total proposed purchase price of $45,478. And funding for this vehicle is available in account 1450-1010-59996-81040 staff vehicles. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Deputy Chief.
I'd just like to thank the board for seeing this. It's, the contract has been seen by Mr. Piers and Mr. Zulin, and I hope that you, favorably look upon this. This is consistent with our fleet management program.
I think I've already signed the, so I don't need, anyone have any questions or comments? Okay.
Nope.
All right, any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous, thanks, Chief. Okay, the next one is you as well. Item number 8, Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the Purchasing Authority to enter into the proposed purchase agreement with Carasoft Technology Corp. of Reston, Virginia, to provide the Fairfield Fire Department with records management system, quote, first due, unquote, software, per the Carasoft Technology Corp. proposal dated January 5th, 2024, for a total proposed purchase price of $44,413.20. This approval includes authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. Funding for this purchase is available in account 01004-010-53000. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second that.
Okay, Deputy Chief.
Thank you. So this contract has also been looked at by Mr. Piers and Mr. Tulin, and we, along with the majority of our neighbors and even fire departments across the United States, we're using a software for our records management, our daily operations software called Firehouse, and that's sunsetted. So everybody in this, the Gold Coast here, and everybody, a lot of people in New York that I know and all, they're looking for a substitute program, and we've looked at different programs, and we've come up with this, and we believe that this will handle our daily needs.
Man, this is a large company.
It is. It's got a deep bench from the way we see it. And they've got a lot of fire departments across the United States already. The ones around here that are already using them, Danbury, Westport, Greenwich, Stamford, I believe. Yonkers, I know, is looking at it. So a lot of places are using it. They had a users conference over in Danbury a couple months ago, and even though we're not a user yet, a chief over there asked me if I wanted to see what it was like, and it was very professional. They had they showed you things that they were doing with the program. They were asking for, showing that how different departments gave their input and how responsive they were, saying, hey, you said this would make it better, and this is how we've made it better. And we think that it's very, it's very robust, and that's what we need, since we're, we just want to put all our activities into something that's going to last and something that will be well supported.
Any questions?
Thank you. Chief, this company is not located in Fairfield, correct?
Correct. No, it isn't.
And no one from Fairfield works for this company, right?
Correct. No one does.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes.
Just for my own education, who will be using this? Will everybody be using it? I read about the training, like who's getting trained?
So what happens, it'll be all our firefighters, 100 that are, the 100 Fairfield firefighters. So daily what happens is we have our scheduling, when you come into work and who's working that day. So you'll see who's scheduled to work because of what platoon they're in. People have accruals and vacation, or military leave or jury duty or personal leave day, and they're tracked in this software. If someone takes off for one of those reasons, we bring in some other people to work for them, but we have to track all these accruals. All this is then gets outputted to a payroll, to Munis. We go on fire calls each day. It'll import from our dispatch program, from the 911 center, import information about the call. We'll go on the call. It'll import all the times for the fire, the unit was notified, the unit's on scene, unit goes back in service, and then we do our NFIRS, our National Fire Incident Reporting System report, which is our official fire report, which, you know, people who have insurance needs, they'll ask for our fire report. The state and the federal government need our incident reports for national incident knowledge, you know, so that they can say, oh, the causation of fires has increased in these, you know, particular things. So all fire departments are sending all this information through these fire reports. The officer coming into Engine 2 tomorrow will start doing a training report on all the firefighters there. They will grab the people from the schedule, pre-populated, and they'll be able to put the training, you know, instances, what they're doing. They're training on ground ladders tomorrow. It'll attach this training record to everybody's record. So at the end of the year, we'll say everybody's got, you know, so many hours of training. Building fire inspections, our fire inspectors go out and they'll be able to have handheld devices and give summonses, but also, you know, be able to document that they've inspected these buildings, or they can issue a liquor you know, permit or whatever else they have to do. Hydrant locations, where they are, let's see, you know,
So you foresee that all the modules that are available, you foresee using?
Yes, and what they do is they've got a lot of this handheld, so that a lot of our people can, you know, do things like they can do their mask check, for example. When they go into their tour tomorrow, they'll check their masks or their tools or whatever like that, and they can just take their handheld, you know, cell phone and just go and scan something and just say, okay, my mask is filled. I check off that I have, you know, done a check off on this, so that for our liability, but also for our safety, we know that the masks on engine 1 and ladder 2 have been checked today. So things like that. So it's all our daily everything, and it all coordinates together in a records management software suite.
Do you have any idea how long it'll take you to migrate current data into this new system and get everybody trained and up and running? I know
it will take some time, because I've talked to my friends, so all the other deputy chiefs all around here who are doing it. So a lot of them got a little bit of a head start on us, even though, you know, we've been looking at it for a long time. But you know, we finally got to this point. But it will take months, and we'll do it by modules. We'll probably do it by the NFIRS, the fire reports, because there's something that we have to do every day. We'll do that first, then we'll go to the next module. We'll probably do scheduling very much soon after that. But as far as taking the information, all of our information that we have already is kept in, you know, in normal formats, so that they'll be able to take this and they'll put a data, a data transfer, and then they just have to identify all the different fields and then write each of these fields into the right, bucket. So it's going to take time, but this company's done it, and it's doing it for all our neighbors, or most of our neighbors. So.
So they will bring somebody in to help implement.
Yes, they're going to have there's an implementation plan on this. So they will bring their people in, and each will work with some of our people, and we'll have, some of the people, for example, inventory, I'll have our mechanics involved in that, and a couple of our firefighters are inventory specialists. They'll take care of that. Scheduling, I'm going to be very involved in that part, because that has to do with, payroll and meetings and things like that. And I actually did this back in Yonkers when we went from nothing. We went from paper to a records management system. I was the liaison. So I've done this before. So, I can't do it all by myself, but I kind of know how to do it.
I remember not that long ago, just maybe several years, I remember at one station house that I visited, they were still doing scheduling on like cards.
Yes. So some of that is how they do their overtime and how that comes up. We're going to see how much of that we can automate, but I think there's some things that we use paper books where we cross out names when somebody calls in and says, I want to take a vacation day tomorrow. They cross it out, and then the day before, then the chief will put it into the computer. I think that can be done right when the person wants a vacation day. You can put it in, even though it's 2 weeks from now. The chief will put it in, and the day before, or when they have to hire for that tour, they can just look up and see, oh, yes, we have these things put in, they're proper accruals, somebody does have, this vacation day to take off, and then, it'll go from there, so.
Any other questions or comments? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, this is exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9, purchase authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchase authority to enter into the proposed agreement with ACV Enviro Republic Services, Inc. of Bridgeport, Connecticut, to provide labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to perform underground storage tank removal services at the Police Department and Operation Hope for Town Bid 2024-55 and ACV Enviro bid proposal dated April 15th, 2024, for a total contract amount of $30,660, with additional authority to enter into approved change orders up to 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this project is available in account 01005030-54320, maintenance and repair of buildings and grounds. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, James.
Adam's going to start off.
Adam, are you, oh, there we go.
Yes, hi, I'm Adam Tulin, Purchasing Director. Thanks, James. So as the resolution states, we went out to bid, Town Bid 2024-55. We received a strong number of responses. I believe off the top of my head, we got 5, maybe 6 responses in. There were 2 bids right around, sort of near each other. Ultimately, ACV Enviro, the low bidder. After reviewing the scope with them, we felt comfortable moving forward. James could probably speak more to it, but just to quickly go over the total contract amount we have listed here. That's the base bid for the removal of the 2 tanks, plus unit price number 4 for paving, and plus unit price number 3 for backfill, and that's what gets us to the $30,660. So just in case you noticed any discrepancy between the base bid and what the contract value is, it is all tied to the bid price. So James, if you want to add
I can elaborate on ACV. We've used them multiple times on tank removals around the town, Independence Hall, Smith Richardson, Senior Center. Very familiar with them, and these are our last couple of heating oil tanks in the ground. Then we are going to move forward eventually to remove the underground storage tanks that dispense vehicle fuel. That comes along with, we have to replace them, not just remove them, with like an above ground dispenser system, so we can fill up our fire trucks at Firehouse 1 and our police vehicles at the police department, and then the marina, which probably would be first because of the life expectancy of those tanks.
Any questions from the board? I'm just gonna add, are you doing this now because it was on a schedule, or were you forced to do it?
No, definitely on a schedule. We like to do 1 a year. This is the heating oil tanks in the same parking lot that we don't really use. We have switched to natural gas heating and haven't really used the fuel in there. We've had these tanks have been emptied, and so they're sitting there, and we're doing 2 at a time this time because they're right next to each other.
Cool. Any other questions? Yeah.
Just in terms of any concerns about just contaminated soil around the tanks?
Not at this time. Double wall tanks, no sign of leaks. They've been emptied. But there's 10% contingency there for that.
No additional questions?
Any questions? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And I guess, thanks, James, take care. Item number 10, purchasing authority to hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the town of Fairfield and Richards Corporation of Terryville to provide labor, materials, equipment, and all else necessary to perform the toilet renovations at Fairfield Ludlow High School per town of Fairfield bid number 2024-70 and Richards Corporation bid submission dated April 22nd, 2024 for the base bid amount of $2,105,177 with additional authority to incorporate add alternates 1 through 6 as needed, and the authority to enter into change orders in an amount not to exceed 10% of the original contract value. Funding for this project is available on account number 258-080-10-57007, bathroom renovation. May I have a motion? Okay. Oh, Adam, this is not you?
Hi. Yeah, sorry, this should be me and I believe Angeles.
Yeah.
So yeah, we went out to bid. I believe this was with the help of Silver Petroselli, is our consultants on this project. You know, whereas on the previous item I just mentioned, we got a large number of responses. We actually only got one response on this bid. However, after review, you know, meeting with the company, going over the project, we felt comfortable recommending award. I will state that the $2.1 million is currently within the budget. You know, I believe there's about $2.9 million currently in the account slated for this project. That will obviously have to cover other expenses too, but we're looking good from that front. Angeles, if you want to speak to anything project specific.
I can speak to any questions on it. Excuse me, you guys may remember that this went out to bid. Bids came in high, so we came back to the Board of Boards. We got additional allocation of funds. We went back out to bid, and that's where we are at this point. We're hoping to move this project along and get a very big jump start on it this summer with a finish up in the fall.
The timing of it, I was surprised to see how long it potentially could take.
It can take quite a bit of time. There's a lot of work to be done for the bathrooms to make them ADA compliant, to get them up to where they need to be. We are working with the school administration team so that we're not going to take complete bathrooms out, but there will be bathrooms at the start of school that may not be in service. We will continue to bring them in as we work the timing and the scheduling out with the school administration the best way they felt that it would be able to be utilized the best for the students in the building.
Did you know I was going to ask that question? Any concerns just in terms of any sort of hazardous materials in doing these bathrooms? I know you can't really answer that until you start taking things apart, but you feel the contingency?
As Mr. Billy mentioned, we're under budget for this, but we are anticipating some, at very least, some asbestos piping wrap, so we are anticipating that. We do have the funding for it in our contingency.
I can barely contain myself that this project is moving forward. It's been waiting. I feel like I had been waiting for this project for probably at least 10 years. So thank you for your work on purchasing department and your work for just, keeping it moving forward. Any more questions?
Presentation.
It's like, I think it was the PTO. Yeah, it really goes. Well, you too probably were on the board of ed when you first started talking about this project.
Very exciting project.
Any other questions?
No.
Any comments from the public? I see Jen Jacobson there.
Jen's like, pass it, just pass
All
it.
right.
It's just like, Jen's been waiting.
Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Can we make some toilet jokes or something? Thank you, Angeles. And I guess you're still purchasing authority, item number 12, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into into the proposed agreement with Land Tech Consultants of Westport, Connecticut to perform surveying and,
11.
oh, I'm sorry, item number 11, oh, they were too close together. Item number 11, purchasing authority, to hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement with Van Zelm Engineers of Farmington, Connecticut to perform boiler burner replacement design services at Roger Sherman Elementary School per Town of Fairfield RFP 2023-02 on call A&E Design Services and the Van Zelm proposal dated March 14th, 2024, for a total proposed contract value of $38,500. Funding for this project is available in account 228-090-100-57000-SHBLR capital outlay. May I have a motion?
Second.
Go ahead. You're up, Adam.
Yes, I don't have a whole lot to say on this one. I wasn't directly involved in much other than confirming that Van Zelm is they're an acceptable company within our on-call design services list. The size of this project, it's a perfect example of how to use our on-call list. We have a plethora of experience with Van Zelm on projects like this, so. But if Evangelist wants to speak to the project, we're good from a procurement standpoint.
So I'll just bring up that Van Zelm is on our on-call service list. We chose to move forward with them because as Adam said, we have a lot of experience with them, and they have actually just completed the Burr boiler replacement, which is a very similar project, and we were very happy with the results there, so that's why we moved forward.
Any question? Yeah.
Fuel oil tank at Roger Sherman?
Above ground statement, it will be removed.
Okay, I couldn't remember if it was above ground or, I didn't think it was underground, just wanted to confirm that. Any discussion of converting to variable flow? I thought that was an issue in terms of in this. Wanted to know if that's something that you considered or we don't have to worry about it.
We're considering it, but we don't think it's going to be an issue as it was at Burr because of the gas flow. We don't think there's going to be an issue because there is low and high pressure gas in the neighborhood down by the beach area. So we should be able to obtain either option best so that we can get the best results. We're looking to go high efficiency, single burn like we did up at Burr.
Questions?
All set? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. And you're still there for one more. Item number 12, purchasing authority. To hear, consider, and act on authorizing the purchasing authority to enter into the proposed agreement with Land Tech Consultants of Westport, Connecticut to perform surveying and engineering services related to the replacement of existing tennis and basketball courts at Fairfield Ward High School per the Land Tech proposal dated April 3rd, 2024 for a total proposed contract value of $19,700. Funding for this project is available in account 228-090-100-57000-024B5 capital outlay. May I have a motion?
Second.
Adam?
Yep, thank you. So yes, this, from a procurement standpoint, we're moving forward with Land Tech because this is this would qualify as an exempt professional service that's under $50,000. So there's actually it's under $25,000, the bid threshold, but so it's exempt from a procurement standpoint. But I also just wanted to add that the decision was made to go with them on this project because they're already contracted with the town on very similar projects. So it just sort of made sense to utilize them under an exempt professional service because it's, we're already working with them on other similar projects.
So I can just add, as Adam said, I reached out to the director of Parks and Rec. We had a conversation about the company. He's very satisfied with their work. He's very familiar with their work, and they're doing a lot for the town already, so that's why we chose to move forward with them. You'll see that this project was approved for funding a few years back, and it's finally coming up. There was a lot of internal conversations about what this project was going to entail, whether we were going to expand the tennis court footprint, expand the pickleball footprint, possibly move into it. But after further talks and negotiations and looking at the land more, there is some wetland concerns and some runoff areas there. So the decision was to just move forwards with, I don't want to say simple, but an overlay, post-tension concrete overlay for the existing tennis courts. And there's also a small basketball court area that's utilized probably primarily by the community than the school, but as it is in poor condition and it's right next to it, we figured it was best to accompany and do both at the same time. So that's why you have both of us.
All right. Any questions? Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Papageorge.
Thank you. Item number 14, Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Town of Fairfield and Tigan Bond.
John Bowden.
13.
Oh my God, I keep skipping. I crossed them off too early. Item number 13, Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on an agreement between Water Pollution Control and COGZ Systems, LLC, for an annual subscription for equipment maintenance tracking services. This approval includes the authorization to enter into renewals on similar terms and conditions. May I have a motion?
Second.
I'm going to let Adam take it, and then if there's any questions about it, then we can.
Okay, Adam.
Yep, sure thing. So, I don't have a lot more to add to this other than what's in the resolution's description. This is the reason we're here is because this is an annual software subscription. So because it's greater than 30 days in duration, we need the Board of Selectmen's authorization to enter into the agreement. It's a necessary product that the WPCF needs for tracking of equipment. Mr. Bodie could speak more to that if there are any specific questions.
Yeah, can you just explain what it does?
It's a database of all the equipment we have at the plant, pumps, mixers, whatever it is. It has all the associated maintenance tasks with it, and it spits out work orders, what needs to be done, and it's weekly, monthly, however that goes. We've been using it since 2010.
So you will not need to come back with this now that you have this approval. Okay. Any questions or comments?
I guess you're happy with it?
Oh, very.
Okay.
$1,398. Brenda, any?
No.
Yeah. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
Item number 14. Purchasing Authority. To hear, consider, and act on an agreement between the Town of Fairfield and Time Bond, Inc. of Shelton, Connecticut to perform design and traffic engineering services related to state project number DOT 005-00226-GR, Post Road East Jug Handle, and state project number DOT 005-00227-GR, Route 59, Stratfield and Churchill intersection per Town of Fairfield RFP number 2024-57, and time bond proposal dated March 21st, 2024, for a total proposed base contract amount of $460,000, inclusive of tasks 1 through 5 of the proposal, with additional authority to add contract alternates as outlined in tasks 1 and 3, as well as future potential construction administration services as outlined in task 6, if determined to be in the best interest of the town. Funding for this project is available on account numbers 228-090-5700-024T3 Post Road Jug Handle and 228-090-5700-024T2 Stratfield Road Design RSA. May I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. Okay, Adam.
Yeah, thank you. I asked Ms. Carpenter to save the longest resolution for our last one, so thank you.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
So similar, there was a recent project we used a similar procurement mechanism where, in an effort to try to streamline some things, we utilized the state. The state has an on-call list of approved engineering firms that can handle state-funded projects like this. So we reached out to all, I can't remember off the top of my head, I want to say 61, somewhere around 61 firms. This time we actually did receive 3 submissions back, which was an improvement over the last one. Ultimately, we rejected one due to some issues with their submission, but we put together an RFP panel that reviewed the remaining 2 submissions. There's a unanimous decision to go ahead with tie and bond. I know that Mr. Hurley had some conversations with tie and bond to make sure they could manage, as we have recently approved a couple of other projects with them, and they felt confident that they could handle adding this into their repertoire. So from a procurement standpoint, I'm satisfied. I don't know, I believe Ms. Jane from engineering is here if there are any project questions.
Yeah, Bill, we're both here just in case you had any questions on it.
Anything you'd like to add, Mega or Bill?
Yes, just a post road East Jug handle, Mr. Gerber, that is part of a road, that is part of the post road peanut roundabout. That's the middle of our Grassmere and peanut roundabout. And Stratfield Road design, it's a road safety audit that Bill and I did back in December 2022 with the CTDOT and with bike committee and all the residents. And we wrote in-house this RSA report and submitted to DOT, and we got the grant. So just to give you a little bit of introduction on the report, and both these projects are good for pedestrian improvements, for enhanced safety and streetscape, and bring more bike-friendly environment to the public.
And I'll just add that the designs came in under budget. Ty and Bond has performed similar designs before for the town with successful results. Thank the state delegation for getting the grant money for these projects. And as I said, hopefully the Board of Selectmen will give us the approval so we can give a notice to proceed. The other one, if you don't mind, real quick, is I was listening, or we were listening before with the Rooster River, and certainly I can go before the Board of Selectmen with updates on the Rooster River and go from there regarding that project.
Thank you, Bill.
So I would just say thank you to both of you for all your hard work on this. I know you've been working at it for some time. And this is a project that that neighborhood's been waiting for quite a while, and you have worked a lot of hours and put in a lot of effort and spent a lot of time meeting with the community on it. And so it's really nice to see it finally coming to fruition. So thank you both for all your hard work.
Thank you, everyone.
Ditto. Any comment, any questions?
Nope, just, it's exciting to see this project move forward and making both of these areas safer for everyone, really.
Not quite as long as the bathrooms.
Not as quite as long as the bathrooms, but
Long time.
but it's been a long time, so it's exciting. It's very good. And just for the health and just the safety of those that walk and ride their bikes in those areas. Unfortunately, we've seen some
projects in the whole town.
Some accidents and some unfortunate things happen, so it's good to see it moving forward, and also thank the state delegation for their advocacy.
Any comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Very excited about this. Yep, thank you. Thank you, Bill and Mega. Item number 15, refunds, tax collector to consider and act upon tax refunds as recommended by the tax collector in the amount of $18,290.77. May I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Any from the public? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Can I just I know we have an executive session next.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna go in and, I don't know how long we're gonna be in there, but I just wanted to ask if I could, at this time, before that executive session, ask to make a motion to discuss and have a discussion about adding open board discussion and new business back to our agendas that have previously been there. We could just discuss it.
Second. For discussion?
Yeah. Second.
Thank you.
Second.
So, I wasn't paying close attention to the agendas, and it had occurred to me back probably, I think, in December, maybe early January, that it wasn't there. And so I had emailed Jennifer, and I'm sure she had her hands full doing things, and maybe just didn't, and I got busy and didn't follow back up. So I happened to look at it again at the agenda, and I had emailed Jennifer asking why was this changed, because essentially this has been the board's protocol for a really long time. The Board of Selectmen always had that, because it allows us the free flow of having discussions about any item that is not specifically put on the agenda by the administration. So if there's something you want to bring up that's not on the agenda, and our Robert's rules don't allow us necessarily to speak about items that are not, like, off the subject matter of an item, agenda item. And I understand the first Selectman's report typically would be during open board discussion and new business, but then it would allow the other board members, and I know it's been going on for a really long time, but under my 4 years, it was the opportunity for the other two board members to be able to bring up items they want to discuss. Because other than that, we're just literally just rubber stamps, voting for contracts and never really having real discussion about items. And the fact that they're non-voting items doesn't, you don't need to list it, so to speak, on the agenda, and we've gotten emails, the board, about people agreeing that this is something we should be doing, and it is, it's part of our basic democracy to have discussions about items in public eye, which is taped, and I personally would like them to be put back on the agenda, because I think it really does stifle debate, stifles our open democracy, where people have an opportunity to talk, share ideas, get input, and it's not public comment, it's just the board talking about whatever it is. Asking maybe to add something to the next agenda, or asking for a little bit more information about something, or sometimes nothing at all. And I did include you when I responded to the town attorney, because I thought it's not an agenda item, it's a process item. And I did include one link to, a Board of Selectmen meeting, but I mean, if you went back and literally watched any Board of Selectmen meeting, probably over the last 20 years, well, we didn't have FairTV 20 years ago, but since we've had FairTV, there was always open board discussion, and it was good. I think it was healthy, and it's important for our democracy to have that. So I am formally requesting and politely requesting that it be returned to our agenda, so that we can carry on that tradition of the board.
I mean, well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
I just thank you, being that I wanted to be full disclosure. I had a problem with that, the way that it was being addressed, the open board comment and discussion. I absolutely agree with you that there should be an open debate, and I think that now that we're past the budget process, there'll be more time, hopefully, for our meetings, for the first Selectman, to just put items, non-voting items, on the agenda for us to discuss, because you're absolutely right. You know, we, our role is to advise and to set policy and do strategic planning and assist the administration with that. I have watched Board of Selectmen meetings for probably a decade, and very often was surprised by the healthy debate that occurred in that section of the meeting, that the public had absolutely no notice of what was happening. So for me, it's really an FOI issue. I think that.
How so, though?
Well, because if you're a member of the public, and if you're looking, I wonder what's on the board, I wonder what the Board of Selectmen is going to be discussing today. You're going to go to the agenda, you're going to see the items, and you're going to decide whether or not you're going to attend to give comment, if you're going to tune in, if you're going to listen. If you have an agenda item that is just open for, you know, whatever the two of us decide that we want to talk about that day, it could be a very, it most likely will be a very important topic that I think the public would want to tune in for, potentially, give comment to. Depending on the item, if to really make a robust discussion, we would want to have the appropriate staff here to answer any questions. And even.
It's not voting, it's not a voting.
Well, it doesn't, I don't think it makes a difference if it's a voting item or not. I think the public could still know to tune in. I think it's just in terms of having a truly open meeting in terms of what business we're going to be conducting. I think it should be noticed. You know, at the end of the meeting, want to take a moment of personal privilege to make an announcement or thank somebody and let the public and the board know of something that might be going on that's not on the agenda. I think that there's an opportunity for that. But I think that if something is really that important, my preference would be for us to, you know, reach out to the first selectman and ask that it be added to the agenda and properly noticed as a discussion item, so the public knows that the discussion is going to be happening and nobody is surprised.
So, I mean, just so we're clear though, our charter allows for this. And it's per 8-1B4. Robert's Rules of Order shall regulate the conduct of all meetings and commissions unless a particular board or commission otherwise specifies. So here, 41-27-6, new business. After unfinished business and general orders have been disposed of, the chair asks, is there any new business? Members can then introduce new items of business or can move or take from the table any matter that is on the table, 17-34, in the order in which they are able to. Obtain the floor when no question is pending and explained in section 3 and 4. So as long as members are reasonably prompt in claiming the floor, the chair cannot prevent them from making legitimate motions and deprive members of their right to introduce legitimate business by hurrying through the proceedings. So I think the point is, and I think it's evidenced by the fact, if you're saying that the first selectman or any first selectman should be in charge of what we're going to talk about, as opposed to us as elected officials being able to bring up matters before the board, which I understand what you're saying, but we have taped meetings. So if someone, I mean, I could talk about, you know, they're going to have a concert on the Green next week or whatever it is. It's not a voting item. So they don't have to be there to say, don't vote for it or do vote for it. It's just an item for discussion purposes only. So there's two ways to do this if you look at the charter. You know, the selectmen can wait till the end and say, I make a motion to have new business. So we'd have to do that every single time. And then have a discussion like a normal board would, which has been going on for the last 50 years or more. Or we can just put it on the agenda like it's always been. Open board discussion, new business. Sometimes there isn't any, sometimes there is. But to say that we should ask the administration to put on what we want on the agenda stifles the whole democratic process and doesn't allow the free flow of discussion And I think the argument that the public should know what we're going to talk about before we're going to talk about it. I mean, people talk about all kinds of things at meetings that aren't scripted, and people go off agenda items and start asking, questions about something that has nothing to do with the agenda. And sometimes the chairs pull it back in or not, but the public, they wouldn't know they were talking about it. It's stifling debate. It's simply put, it's stifling debate. And the board got a lot of emails agreeing with that and asking us to reinstate it because they feel it is undemocratic to not allow open board discussion of a three-person board. And that has been past practice for ever. And so I don't think there's a legitimate reason to say we shouldn't have it or that we should have to submit what we want to talk about before the board to the administration and hoping that they'll allow us to have that opportunity. We are elected officials just like anybody else, and we should be able to bring up matters of the day, issues and topics of the day for a discussion. No vote. If there is an item we want to bring up for a vote, or if we think there's something, we can always email the administration and ask them, would you mind putting, just like I did today, can you do a presentation on Rooster River? Can we get a presentation, learn more? That's in context, and that's a good thing. But it's not a voting item, right? I just think that changing this agenda is just blatantly stifling the democratic process and debate, and a lot of people agree.
And I guess it's just a difference of an opinion. I'm not looking to stifle debate. I am just trying to be transparent and letting the public know what they can expect from our meeting. The chair, the first selectman is the chair of this board. It is the chair's purview to set the agenda and to conduct the business of the town.
Correct.
All for open debate, but I just, having watched meetings for years, I have seen boards of selectmen totally have a healthy debate on very important topics that unless you happen to tune into, you just happen to watch the board of selectmen meetings for fun, and if the press picked it up, you might never know it happened by looking at the agenda. Because it's not going to be added to a past agenda, whereas if you add something to the agenda.
I understand, but
I think it's just really transparency with the public.
To me, not allowing open discussion is a lack of transparency because you're regulating the transparency of the ability of people to have a discussion. It's not voting items. For example, what if some a member on the Board of Finance or RTM throws out a comment that has nothing to do with the agenda during a RTM or Board of Finance meeting? So you don't know about it. So somebody says, oh, did you know so-and-so said something at a meeting, or they talked about this matter or this issue? I mean, that's town government. That's small town government.
That's not supposed to happen. But can we let the town attorney address this?
I just have a couple of comments on it. So first of all, remember that under FOIA, unless it's a special meeting, you can add items to it. So if there's something that you want to discuss in a motion, you're a member of the board and you have the right to make a motion to add something to the agenda. 2/3 of the body support it, you can add the item to the agenda. Now, that is not necessarily the best process because no one has notice of what the discussion is going to be. No one has notice of, potential discussions that could occur under a general, non-specific item. No one is saying that there can't be open discussion. What is being said is, say what the discussion is. Let's put it on the agenda so everyone knows about it. Robert's Rules does not require a general item of new business where anything can come up, and FOIA requires us to have open meetings and noticed meetings. The charter doesn't specify the content of agendas. The only body in this town that has a rule that requires items of new business on the agenda is the RTM because they have the rules to regulate. So I think you're making more of this than it is. If you want something on the agenda, ask the first selectman to add it to the agenda. We've done that in the past this year, and we've added things to the agenda based on your request, which some of them, very helpful discussion, like you asked for a Penfield update and we added it. So I would say continue to do that. If something comes up in the meeting that you really want to discuss because it happened that day, make a motion, and if one of the other members supports it, it can be added to the agenda and discussed in that meeting. But I would caution doing that too much because the public doesn't know that's going to happen, and that's the issue.
So Phil, it helped me to understand how over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we had open board discussion and the ability to discuss new business just listed plainly on the agenda. So you're saying the town of Fairfield was violating FOIs for 50 years. I mean, I had no problem. No one ever said, I never took that ability away in my 4 years. Neither did any of the prior administrations. I didn't have a problem with select people bringing up items that they wanted to discuss. They'd say, is there any new business? They'd raise their hand and they'd share what they want. If for as long as they want. Because I think that was my job as the first select person to show respect and allow the other members the ability to talk freely about items that they want to talk about. Now, it wouldn't be just like talking about issues that have nothing to do with our town. I just don't understand why we're making this change. It's been this way forever, and I can't understand why all of a sudden it's considered you have to either send it to this administration needs to see it first, or you have to jump in and get a 2/3 to even have a discussion about an item that you think is important about the town. I can't help but feel this is stifling basic discussion of this board.
So, again, the mere fact that something has happened before doesn't mean that it's good or that we should continue to do that. So that doesn't mean that it's a good argument to keep something.
No, in some instances,
and if something's
right.
important, I agree with you. Important discussion should be had at this point. Important discussion should be known by the public in advance so they can participate and appreciate the discussion. They can't do that if we don't tell them that these important discussions are going to occur.
But open board discussion, and even when I was on the Board of Ed, there were meetings where the board discussed a whole host of things, and there was no public comment. It was only when a voting item was coming up. That's when the public was invited to give comment, because they want to sway the vote one way or the other.
So there's no limitation in how a meeting is run that you solely take public comment on a voting item. You can allow public comment on non-voting items, and boards do that all the time. And if you're having discussions about an important item that relates to the town, I would encourage the board to take public comment on that and to not stifle public comment and say, we're not taking public comment on that. The only way to provide the public with the opportunity to comment is if you let them know it is happening. That's all I'm saying.
So I respect what you're saying, but I also feel that the other two Board of Selectmen members appreciated the opportunity to freely bring up matters at the board table, which was taped and anyone could watch. And then if they felt they needed to comment about that, they could come to the next meeting and make a comment. The administration can add public comment after the new business. So for example, if you were watching FairTV after a meeting and you saw there was a discussion, you could come up at the end of the meeting. I can even remember there was open public comment. I think during Flato's administration, there was open board public comment, where people would just come up and share their opinion about anything.
So I suppose you're right. We could have a vague item on the agenda that does not disclose to anyone what's going to be discussed.
It's not vague, it's open board discussion.
No, new business or open board discussion does not tell anyone what's going to be discussed. And then at the next meeting, based on what the board discussed without notifying the public, say, these items were discussed at the last meeting, we'll accept public comment on it. I prefer to just do that in one meeting, so there's one discussion, it's more efficient, and the public gets the benefit of that
Absolutely.
Without delay.
No, I think that's
ultimately, I'm just the lawyer, so the board, you guys can run the meetings how you want, but that's my sense of how best to comply with the spirit of FOIA, and also just how to run a good meeting, so.
Yeah, and I think I understand your point of view. You made it very, very clear, and for me, you can do it either way. I feel it's different than RTM. RTM meets once a month.
Very different.
And there's a lot of people, and it's hard to get items on the agenda. It isn't. I mean, it took me a little while, I admit, to get your Penfield updates on the agenda because I was just getting my feet on the ground and wasn't really sure myself what the Penfield update was. But take your agenda and, requests and put them on, or at the meetings, we could put them on, and not ideal to do that. But we meet every 2 weeks, and I see a lot of healthy debate, and we haven't had this on on the agenda for a long time. I was a little confused by some of the emails, but people saying you're stifling debate, because that's all we do is debate in some of these meetings without that on the agenda. So it hasn't stifled debate, but I think it is a disservice. Because it's every 2 weeks, all you have to do is sort of write down, if there's a major topic that you want to bring up. And I remember once the Board of Selectmen started talking about a union contract in open board comment, and later I got a call from somebody on the RTM saying they were talking about our contract, and we weren't even there. We weren't informed about it, and we would have been there had we been. So I think there's a certain just amount of discipline that we could add to it, of just writing down what it is that's pressing. Most things aren't so pressing, in my view, that we couldn't address it in the next meeting, and then we can get it on the agenda, a Rooster River update or something like that, as opposed to just sort of, some of it would be shooting from the hip a little bit at the end of a meeting. There's something you thought of. Much better to get it on the agenda, let people know we're going to talk about. In my opinion, I understand. I don't disagree with your view. I just think it is splitting hairs a little bit, because I do think we will get to it. It's just a matter of waiting it and getting organized and making sure you have all the facts at your disposal, including the backup from, the employees that may be, or the employees or the public that are involved, in those items.
Well, just to comment on that, I was being asked repeatedly by the board to give updates on the arbitration, and I couldn't because we weren't. We weren't allowed to do that I was not at liberty to do that. Once I was at liberty to do that, then I wanted to give them, because they were repeatedly asking me. So that was an update. It was just, here are the facts, here's what's going on, and here's the information, period. But that's just one item. There were, the Penfield update, for example. I didn't put the Penfield update on the agenda. I was asked by the board. So I said yes. But again, there were many times, and I mean many times. And yes, it's not always enjoyable or comfortable. And I really think it's kind of, convenient to say that, the public doesn't. First of all, no one's really watching these meetings. Look at we haven't had public comment in months. People watch it later on FairTV. Let's be perfectly honest. Open board discussion is an ability for the two people who are not running the administration to have a discussion. They wake up that morning or the day before and they say, oh, I saw something in the paper, or I read something, or a resident reached out to me about an item. I just want to talk about it. I just think it's the right thing to do. It's what we've always done. And if you want to add, to Phil's point, public comment after our open board discussion and new business section, then by all means, please do that. If you feel that the public would have to have an opportunity to talk about that. But at the same time, I just think that Fairfield, while it's gotten really big, is still, my little hometown. And my little hometown always allowed the free flow of discussion. And frankly, sometimes it was stressful to me as the first select person. Go back and look at some of those meetings. There were select people who talked a really long time about a whole bunch of stuff during open board discussion. And as the chair, I showed respect to them, allowed them to speak, get what they wanted off their chest, make their comments about whatever item it was of the day. Because that's what a good leader does, allows the people at the table to also have the ability to communicate. So that's all I'm asking. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it should be this big of a deal. We've been doing it. I don't know if Jackie Durrell did it or John Sullivan, but I do know that Ken Flato, John Matsopoulos, Paul Audley, Mike Tetro, and me all did it. and didn't have any issues with allowing the board to have a discussion on items that they wanted to talk about.
Okay, I mean, I
I
think
just-
we're clear
I
on
would
your view.
prefer-
I personally disagree. I agree on some parts and I disagree on others, but in general, my feeling is the town is more complicated than way back when. We have really long agendas. Some of our meetings do go off the rails a little bit. They need to be more efficient. And I think if it's a matter of an idea that you read in the paper, that to me, it's more respectful to people to plan a little bit for it rather than just bring it up without planning, because there are items that we could get experts in, the people that, DPW or WPCF or whoever, or someone on a commission, and actually have a fruitful discussion instead of winging it. So that's where I come from. I don't want to stifle debate. As a matter of fact, that I think is incorrect, because we're debating. We will always debate at the
Agenda
table.
items, right?
But you're talking about stifling debate
And
on new issues.
presentations,
Yeah.
that's an easy one, right? Just ask, can we have a presentation on Worcester River? I'm talking, and we didn't do that during open board discussion. Tom or Nancy wouldn't say, and I was running a town that's the same that you're running now, so it wasn't old, it was just recently.
No, I mean, like comparing to I don't know what Sullivan did or whatever, but.
Nancy and Tom, they would email and ask for a presentation on something, and we would add it. But if they still had the opportunity to bring up an item of their choosing as elected officials at this table, non-voting. So, I mean, if there's a concern that the public is going to be so, upset that there was something talked about that they didn't know about, there's things talked about all the time. Oh my God, go look at social media.
But also that the public won't be getting good information if the people that need to talk about it aren't there.
Right, but it's just a discussion, right? It's not like I'm going to give a presentation on, underground oil tanks or something. It's just an open board discussion. Sometimes there will be none, sometimes there will be some. And yes, there will still be, issues, agenda items where we're going to have disagreements. But the open board discussion is simply open board discussion. And I have to tell you, it's not a good look to say that I will not allow it, or you have to kind of pass it through me before we do it. It feels very scripted. It feels very controlled. And it's like, stay in your lane. We don't want you talking about anything that we don't want.
Well, I don't recall us, have we actually said anything?
I mean, I don't know who decided to take it off. I mean,
It may have dropped, I can't remember.
I told you, and I'm coming from chairing a board where we just didn't talk, people had a lot of ideas about a lot of different things in our school district, valid ideas, ideas that people reached out to them. If we just had, open discussion that everybody could just talk, I don't know how long, I mean.
Never had that. I was on that board.
And, Board of Ed had open board comment at the end of the meeting, but it is just a comment. It was not.
It's 9 people.
Not a discussion.
It was not an opening just to have a conversation
No, I
about
understand.
anything, in part because we want to bring the public along with us.
I participated in those open
conversations.
board discussions on the board. Sometimes they would get a little meaty,
Well, we didn't. I mean, when we did not, the Board of Ed did not have a back and forth during open board discussion. It was more like information out there or a request, a public, asking the chair to put this on the agenda. So it was on the public record. And I think
But
for
this
me, it's
board
really
has had
just a
it.
question
This board
of.
has had it though, Christine. That's the
I
crucial difference.
understand that, but.
May have changed, I don't know.
I understand that this
Always on there.
This board might have had it. And this is just my personal, I don't think that in terms of having an open meeting and making our agendas as transparent as possible on what's going to be discussed and occurred at our meeting, that having an item that could have the three of us speaking for who knows how long about any item in the town is really best practiced for a democratic process. And it's not a lack of respect for your point of view at all. You added an item to the agenda. We're having a healthy debate right now. I think that there are policies and procedures to support debate while also keeping the meeting open and letting the public know that there's not going to be something discussed that wasn't properly noticed, that they have an opportunity to be present. And they don't have, and be, even if they don't have comment, to be in the room and be present as part of our meeting, and they wouldn't necessarily know that unless it's on the noticed agenda. And I think that if you have something, I would encourage you to reach out to the first selectman. And it's not that he's the gatekeeper, he's just, he keeps the agenda. And I think, it's similar to in business. People don't just walk into a business meeting and be able to, it's keeping order. So there's an expectation for the public that they know what business is going to be conducted. It's not, that you're controlling or you're trying to stifle our input. I would hope that if either one of us comes to you with ideas for an agenda, that you would put it on for discussion.
Well, I think we all know each other's.
Control.
Yeah.
I just want to finish on that. The chair still has control over the meeting. So even during open board discussion, if it was going really off on the rails, I would say, okay, can we, we've gone 15 minutes, Nancy or Tom, can we, bring it back into, can we wrap it up a little? That's all, just respectful, like, hey, can we bring it back? Listen, I was on the RTM, I was on the board, Ed, and the only board that had open board discussion was this one. And the only time in the history of this town it's been removed is now. And all I'm asking is that it be put back, because I will then have to, every single meeting, make a motion to open up open board discussion, which seems a little unfair, and then hope that someone seconds it.
Well,
and then that's when I'll be able to have a discussion about an item. But other than that, if it's not on there.
You could make it like a specific item if you want to put it on the agenda, right? You would put
I
the
would
item
have
on
to
the
say, I would
agenda.
like to have an open board discussion, a motion, and.
No, couldn't you make a motion to put a specific item on the agenda?
So, just a couple of things. So remember, you can add things to the agenda up to 24 hours before a regular meeting. So keep that in mind. If you think of something the day before, you can ask it to be added to the agenda.
Yes.
And so then the public knows it's going to be discussed. If you don't meet the 24 hours, remember, this board can convene special meetings. So if for some reason it's a really urgent discussion that presumably would be important and you would want public engagement on, and you want them to know what's going to happen, you can notice a special meeting. You can notice it for, like 24 hours later, 2 days later. I don't think it's, you can also make a motion to have, specific items discussed during the meeting. I don't think, if you know about something that you want to talk about, I don't think waiting until the meeting to talk about it is good process, because the public's gonna have no idea, and that's the point.
Okay, I think we know where we stand.
So I'm just gonna ask once again, for the record, for the minutes, that Selectwoman Brenda Gupchick asked for the new business, open board discussion, a new business to be added back to the agenda as the board's practice. And I guess if it's not, then I'm gonna have to make a motion at the end of every meeting for open board discussion. And
Or a specific subject that you want to talk about.
right, well, I mean, usually it'll be something, who knows? And maybe it's nothing. But I would prefer it be open board discussion, like it always has been. And I actually, like, surprised I'm even having to have this conversation.
Well, it's real, and again, it's really just to make, if you haven't, I respect your knowledge and what you would want to bring to the table, and I think the public would too. So I think that in order to bring the public along and so that they know what to expect, what you think is important,
I know,
the best way to let them know
I just think it's a
what you're going to
courtesy that's
say
been afforded to
is
every
just
other.
put it on the agenda to bring the public along.
But it's been a courtesy that's been afforded to every other board for ever and ever, and all of a sudden it's not. And I'm actually having to spend, half an hour asking for something that should or has always been allowed. So.
Okay, I mean, I think we've
talked about it.
Talked about it. We know.
See, he's being the chair. He's pulling it back together. There you go.
Now we are, item number 16, Town Attorney, executive session with Town Attorney Philip Pierce to discuss claims of Joseph Grzegowski against the Town of Fairfield, possible action to approve settlement after executive session. May I have a motion to go into executive session, invite Attorney Pierce into, and anyone else? Attorney Pierce into executive session. Motion?
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Second, yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I was looking for a second.
Sorry.
Are we already in executive session?
No.
Oh,
Recording stopped.
wait, no, only